Good morning, children. How are you all? I'm sure you all are fine, taking good care of yourselves. Okay, so today's session, what are we going to do? Yes, chapter 2 from the Hornbill book. And what's the name of the lesson or the story? We are not afraid to die if we can all be together, by Gordon Cook and Alan East. So children, let's begin. We're Not Afraid to Die, written by Gordon Cook and Alan East. So it's written by Gordon Cook and Alan East. This story is about a 37-year-old businessman who is the narrator of the story. He has a wife named Mary and 2 children, Jonathan, aged 6, and Suzanne, aged 7. He and his wife both dream of a voyage. Journey by sea is called voyage. So they dream of a voyage around the world on their ship, Wave Walker. So what's the name of their ship? Wave Walker, which is a 23-meter long, 30-ton wooden hull, just like that of the famous Captain James Cook. The whole family started sailing from Plymouth, England on July 1976. The initial phase of the 3-year-long journey was from Africa to Cape Town. It was pleasant while heading east, along with 2 newly hired crewmen. So they had hired 2 crewmen also. Strong waves hit them and their survival became a question. So they started facing problem. The sea was rough. The story tells us about how they fought each day and survived till the end. So the story, what does it tell us? How they fought each day and survived till the end. Now let's have a look at the summary of the story, okay? The narrator and his wife plan a voyage around the world just like famous Captain James Cook. They have been preparing and perfecting their seafaring skills for the past 16 years. They get a ship which is 23 meters long and was the weight 30 tons. And was a name Wave Walker. They tested in the rough weather for months. Okay, so in July 1976, they all start their journey from Plymouth, England. They sail from Africa to Cape Town, which was quite a pleasant journey. Before heading east, the narrator hired 2 crewmen, Larry Vigil and Herb Siegler, to help them tackle one of the roughest sea, the Southern Indian Ocean. They encountered, that means they come across strong and alarming waves during the second day. Otherwise also the waves in the ocean are very rough. They rise so high. By December 25th, they all managed to reach 35,000 kilometers east of Cape Town. The family somehow manages to surpass the bad weather and celebrates Christmas together. The weather changes for the worse. So from bad, it has gone worse. On January 2, the big waves hit them. They tried to slow the ship down by dropping storm jib and hit a heavy mooring rope in a loop across a stern, but it doesn't help much. They carry their life raft drill, attach lifelines, that means they put on, they wear life jackets and oilskins. Later in the evening, a vertical and huge wave strikes the ship and the narrator is thrown off from the ship. You can imagine his condition. He accepts his approaching. Now he knew that I'm going to die. That was his feeling, and starts losing consciousness. When the ship is about to overturn, a huge wave hit again and turns it right back. He suffers injuries in ribs and mouth. He grabs the guardrail and sails into the ship's main boom. He instructs his wife Mary to guard the wheel as he realizes that the ship has water in the lower parts. Obviously, children, if water gets into ship, it's quite likely to sink, go underwater. His crewman starts pumping out the water. The narrator goes to his children's cabin and checks on them. His daughter, Sue, informs him about a bump on her head, which he ignores because his major concern is to save the ship. The narrator does waterproofing on the gaping hole, so there are holes also. This makes water to deviate on the right side. It moves to the right side. The hand pumps get plucked due to debris, and electric pump gets short-circuited. However, he later finds a spare electric pump and connects it to drain the water. They all keep pumping the water all night long. Their mayday calls, their emergency calls made when they ask for help, that is mayday calls, they are not answered as they are in the remotest corner of the world. Sue, on the other hand, has now a swollen black eye and a deep cut in her arm. On being asked by her father about her injuries, she tells him she didn't want him to worry as he was trying to save them. After 15 hours, the situation gets under control. The narrator decides to work in rotation and rests. The water levels are controlled, but the leaks were still there below the water line. The ship is in bad shape now. It is not in a condition to reach Australia, and so they decide to reach the nearest island, Isle Amsterdam, a French scientific base. As the supporting engines were also damaged, the chances of the ship to reach the destination are low, very low. So, after pumping the water out continuously for 36 hours, they took a sigh of relief. Only a few centimeters of water was left to be pumped out of the boat. They hoisted the storm jib as the mainmast was destroyed. They ate their first meal in 2 days, some corned beef and crackers. The weather soon started changing, and again the black clouds took over by the morning of January 5. That means weather would worsen further. His son Jonathan told him that he didn't fear death as long as they were all together. This filled him with determination to fight the sea. The struggle continued, and the narrator tried his best to protect the weakened starboard side. The same evening, the narrator and his wife sat together holding hands, thinking that the end was near. That means they're going to die. His children continuously supported him, which gave him moral support to keep going. Moral support was very much required at that time. The wave walker sailed through the storm and made it. The narrator then calculated So the narrator then calculated their exact position by working on the wind speed. While he was brainstorming, he was thinking Sue gave him a card that she had made expressing her love and gratitude towards her family. He instructed Larry to steer the course to 185 degrees. He said that if they were lucky, they could hope to find an island by 5 p.m. He dozed off, that means he slept, and suddenly caught up at around 6 p.m. He believed that they didn't make it and was disappointed. He was unhappy. His son came and informed him about how they reached the Amsterdam Island, and he called him best Teddy and best captain. They reached the island with little struggle and with the help of inhabitants, the whole team. So the whole team, the family and the crew members never stopped trying. The struggle and hard work finally saved them. Okay, now the explanation of the lesson, children. In July 1976, my wife Mary, son Jonathan, 6, Suzanne, 7, and I set sail from Plymouth, England to duplicate the round-the-world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. For the longest time, Mary and I, a 37-year-old businessman, had dreamt of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer. And for the past 16 years, we had spent all our leisure time honing our seafaring skills, polishing aboard Wave Walker. So the author is saying this. He's the speaker here. Please go through it very carefully. This is the text part, children, okay? He's talking about his ship, Wave Walker, about its length, its weight, that it was so beautiful. Okay, now word meanings. Look at the word meanings. Voyage, a long journey by sea or space, leisure, free time, honing, sharpen, improve, seafaring, regularly traveling by sea. Wooden hulled, a watertight body of a ship. Okay, so the narrator, 37-year-old businessman, along with his wife Mary and 2 children. Jonathan, 6, and Suzanne, 7 years old, went on a voyage on the ship in July 1976, and they started their journey from Plymouth, England. They wanted to complete the sea trip around the world just like the one that had been completed 200 years ago by whom? James Cook, Captain James Cook. So the narrator and his wife spent 16 years improving their seafaring skills. They got a ship. It was built professionally. Okay. He called it Wave Walker. They took several months to test it in the roughest of weathers. So the first leg of our planned 3-year 105,000 kilometer journey passed pleasantly. We sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. There, before heading east, we took on 2 crewmen, Larry Vigil and Herb Sigler, to help us tackle one of the world's roughest seas, Southern Indian Ocean. So, on our second day out of Cape Town, we began to encounter strong gales, means wind, for the next few weeks. They blew continuously. Gales did not worry me, but the size of the waves was alarming. It was a matter of great concern, great worry. Gale, a very strong wind, is called a gale. Mast, a tall, upright structure on a boat or ship. Okay, so the initial phase of the 3-year-long journey passed very pleasantly. They sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. The narrator hired crewmen. Yes, so this I have already told you. December 25th found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. So despite atrocious weather, bad weather, we had a wonderful holiday complete with a Christmas tree. New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather, but we reasoned that it had to change soon. And it did change for the worse. At dawn, that means early morning, on January 2, the waves were gigantic, means huge. We were sailing with only a small storm chip and were still making 8 knots. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, we could see endless, enormous seas rolling towards us. The screaming of the wind and the spray was painful to the ears, quite frightening. To slow the boat down, we dropped the storm chip and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. Then we double lashed everything. They put on their life jackets and oilskins. So look at the word meanings there, children. Please note down. Otherwise you'll not understand the lesson. Look at the difficult words. The meanings are also given there. Please note down. Otherwise you'll not be able to understand the story. What the difficult words mean. You're supposed to know that. I hope you're noting down. Yes, children, please note down. Otherwise, you cannot understand the lesson. On December 25th, so they had traveled 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Then they celebrated Christmas together. Despite the bad weather, the weather remained the same till New Year's Day, but they hoped for it to change soon. The weather conditions, oh my God, worsened. On the early morning of January 2, the waves were huge. The noise was disturbing, painful to the ears. They dropped the storm jib to slow down the ship. They lashed everything with double force. They put on their oilskins, life jackets to save themselves. The first indication of impending disaster, that something terrible would happen, came at about 6 p.m. They could sense that. With an ominous silence, everything became silent. There was no sound at all. The wind dropped and the sky grew dark. Then came a growing roar, a loud sound, and an enormous cloud towered aft of the ship. With horror, I realized that it was not a cloud, but a wave like no other I had ever seen. Just imagine the condition. So the condition of the waves was really horrible. With a frightful breaking crest. So look at the word meanings there, children, the difficult words and the meanings. I hope you are noting down. It's very important. So what happened at around 6 p.m.? Unpleasant silence rolled over. There was absolute silence. The wind dropped. The sky grew darker. The wave was vertical. Yes. So the condition was horrible. Things were unpleasant. The roar increased to a thunder as the stern moved up the face of the wave. Imagine the condition. But a tremendous explosion shook the deck. A torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. My head smashed. Whose head? The writer's head, the narrator's head, into the wheel, and I was aware of her flying overboard and sinking below the waves. So now the narrator knew that they all would die. I accepted my approaching death. He knew he would die. And as I was losing consciousness, I felt quite peaceful. So look at the difficult words and the meanings given there, children. Please note down. I hope you are noting down. Very good. The thunder increased and the wave moved the stern up. So they thought now there was no chance of survival at all. The narrator was badly hurt. His head was smashed. He accepted his death was approaching. Unexpectedly, my head popped out of the water a few meters away. Wave walker was near capsizing. Capsize means it was about to sink, go under water. Masts were horizontal. Subsequent waves tossed me around the deck like a rag doll. Imagine. Left ribs cracked, mouth filled with blood and broken teeth. Imagine the narrator's condition. How painful it must have been. Somehow I found the wheel lined up to the stern for the next wave and hung on. Water, water everywhere, all over. There was water. All that they could see was water. All that he could see was water. Ship was sinking. Mary was screaming. The decks were smashed, were full of water. Look at the difficult words and the meanings there, children. Please note down. I hope you are noting down. So here, what is the explanation? The narrator was badly hurt, badly injured. His head was hurt, ribs cracked, mouth filled with blood. And everywhere there was water and only water. Chances of survival were very bleak. Yes. Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen, pumping the water out because it was required. Otherwise, the ship would go under water. The narrator, what did he do? See, he's saying here, I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. Are you all right? I asked. Yes, they answered from an upper bunk. But my head hurts a bit, said Sue. Because she was also injured. You remember, children? So with the starboard side bashed open, we were taking water with each wave that broke over us. So chances of survival were almost nil. If I could make some repairs, we would surely sink. So timbers, look at the meaning starboard. Please note down, otherwise you'll forget and you'll not understand the story. Look at the meanings there. Please note down. So crewmen Larry and Herb were pumping the water very fast. The starboard of the ship had sunk. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins were all were roaming around in deep water. The narrator's main concern here was to save all the members. So somehow I managed to stretch canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across the gaping holes. The holes had to be covered, otherwise more water would get inside. So more problems cropped up. Hand pump started to block with the debris. The water level rose threateningly back on deck. I found that spare hand pumps had been wrenched overboard along with the forestay sail, the jib, the dinghies, and the main anchor. Everything was almost destroyed, not about to be destroyed. Then he remembered about another electric pump. Thankfully it worked. Okay, now some more word meanings. Have a look. Please read carefully, otherwise you'll not understand, children. How the water level rose and how hand pumps were used to save the lives. They were trying to make mayday calls, but no replies to their mayday calls. Mayday calls were used to signal ships stuck in disaster situation through radio Through radio. Yeah, radio signals rather. Yes. So children, that's all for this session. Please go through all that has been done. Write down everything in your notebook, all that has been taught in this session. Thank you. Goodbye.